What's up, Porsche fanatics? Will here with Rennthusiast. I'd like to welcome you to my 2007 Porsche 911 Turbo in Guards Red 6-speed manual. If you've been around the channel for a while, you know that I have been a die-hard air-cooled Porsche guy. I've done tons of videos on my air-cooled Porsches. I have a 993 Coupe, and I also have an 86 3.2. But with this car, I decided to stick my toe in the water of water-cooled, and not only did I go with water-cooled, I went with turbo. Before I get into today's content, which is going to be an overview of this 911 Turbo, including driving impressions and overall comparison to air-cooled cars in terms of like ownership experience and which one I really prefer, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, comment, weigh in, let me know what you think. A little bit of background on this car. Car currently has 24,800 miles. I'm the third owner. When I bought it, the car had 23,000 miles on it. Clean Carfax, fairly well documented. Some of the services were actually like documented in a handwritten file folder. So, you know, not super thrilled about that, but it is what it is. DME report on this car shows some over revs, not uncommon in a 6-speed manual. This car also has a tune on it. Based on my research, when a car like this has a tune on it, you tend to see more over revs in the DME because it does allow the red line to go higher. Let's now jump out of the car and I'll take you around it. Okay, so here we are, the absolutely unmistakable 997 Turbo. And this Guards Red, believe it or not, is actually a fairly rare color for the 997 Turbo. I did some research. Only 3% of these turbos appeared in Guards Red. I want to say something like 73% of them came in either black, white, or gray. So, you know, when I saw this Guards Red color in the for sale ad, I was like, hey, this must be pretty common because I'm so used to, you know, seeing Guards Red in the air-cooled cars, specifically the G-body cars. But imagine my surprise when I figured out this car was, you know, actually kind of rare. When I started to look for this, I really did want a brighter, louder color. I got close on a speed yellow 997 Turbo in 6-speed. And I ended up just not being able to pull the trigger on it. I'm not a huge yellow guy. I know a lot of people just love speed yellow on 911s. It's just not my thing, and so I didn't know if I could live with it. And then this car came up. Man, I just love that angle on this car. If you know anything about it, you'll know this spoiler does deploy. It comes up between here and this top. These wheels, these are the true turbo wheels, and it's funny, you know, you see them on a lot of the naturally aspirated cars. You know, I like the turbo wheels. If I decide to keep this car long term, which I'll get into in a little bit, I may go with some BBS CHRs on it. I just think those wheels are amazing. Another complaint I would have about this car, the wheel gap. So I believe that a lot of folks put H&R lowering springs on these cars. I could totally see how that would look good. I've seen it online. Just improves the stance. When I was driving the car home, I broke that fog light. That was fun. Now these round headlights are important, or oval I should say. My search started with a 996 Turbo because I just found the value for the money. The prices they're going for right now are just, it's so good. But as I continued the search, I just couldn't get beyond those headlights that the 996s have, and so that's part of what got me here. So this is the walk around. I mean, it's an amazing design. God, it's so beautiful. So now let me give you the driving impressions. All right, so look, there are other really thorough review videos of this car out there. JM, I don't know if you follow his channel, he did a really well done, thorough review on the 997 Turbo and 6-speed manual. And you know, he talks about where it fits into the history of Porsche and so on and so forth. So I'll put a link to his video in the description too if you're looking for that. The way I do things, I basically just kind of talk at you about my thoughts on driving these cars, and so that's what this is going to be about. The first thing you notice when you get into a 997 Turbo, or at least this car, is a wonderful leather smell. It's like overpowering, but in a good way. There have been some complaints about the layout, the tech of this car, and how it appears to be antiquated compared to the 997.2. I don't really see that. The touch screen in the 997.2 is nice. in that it's functional. You know, you can touch it to make selections. On this car, you cannot do that. It's simply just there for display purposes. That doesn't bother me too much. I had a 997.2 C4S for a period of time, and I had the touch screen and it was nice, but to me, I just don't think that all that criticism is warranted. I feel like the fit and finish of this car is solid, definitely on par with the amount of money it costs you to own one of these things. All right, so let's take it out. So as I was saying, this car has an APR Tune on it. Seller estimates the horsepower at 550. He never dynoed it. I believe that from the factory, these come with 480 horsepower. You know, I'm not gonna get into the exact horsepower on this car. It's definitely enough for me. I mean, it's so fast. That is the fun factor of this car. The amount of horsepower in this car made it to a 6-speed manual. It kind of reminds me of my E92 M3. I mean, very, very cool, but it also is a little bit unwieldy. It's just so much. I think this would actually, if you had the tip, which I can't speak to, I've never owned one of those, but I could say if you had the PDK in this car, I think you could get more performance out of it. So what happens, I'll try to explain this clearly. This engine gets so much momentum when you hammer on it. When you go to shift gears, you put the clutch in, and in most cars what happens is when you release the engine, it starts to fall back, right? And I know I'm probably not using technical language. You know, shoot me in the comments if you want. But what happens is because this car has so much power, the momentum of the acceleration continues. So when you depress the clutch, it continues to rev, which is a little bit unsettling, and it's just not your traditional shift feel. So that, coupled with the hydraulic clutch system on this car, it makes precise shifting a little bit difficult. I mean, God, I mean, I was just doing 80 like that. So the hydraulic clutch plus that massive amount of power, it just makes the car a little bit difficult to manage with the 6-speed manual. So, you know, I'm not necessarily complaining about that, but what I'm saying is if you're considering buying one of these in 6-speed manuals, you should probably try to test drive one if you could, just to make sure that you would like it. I digress a little bit, but like I said to you, I had a C4S, an 09 in PDK, and I just could never connect emotionally to that car because of that PDK. I'm just a guy who likes to row through the gears. So for me, with this car, the imprecision is a little bit of a sacrifice. I love a perfect shift, and it's hard to execute in this car when you're really getting after it. This car is very, very comfortable to drive, to ride in for long distances. These seats, these sports seats are amazing to look at. I love how they look. But equally important, if not more important, is the comfort factor. They hold you in place, they envelop you, you know, yet you can ride in them for a long, long time. And I think that's probably something difficult to execute. Ergonomically speaking, like the seating position with the steering wheel is fantastic. I can set it up perfectly for me, where I feel supported, I feel tight in place, I feel like the steering wheel is a perfect distance for me. When I look at the gauges, I mean, I love the silver backdrop, the silver gauge faces with the orange needles on the front of them. I think it just really, it pops, it looks good. Sport Chrono has the same thing going on with it. So all of this, the dashboard, the doors, how it's all set up, just looks very tight, very modern. I still do like, let me just execute that turn, whoa. I still like that old school air-cooled 911 dashboard setup where it's just like, it's very vertical. This is different. This has more of that stack to it. Pedal feel in this car, they've done a good job of, you know, requiring gentle inputs. This Porsche 911 Turbo also has a Miltek exhaust on it. And I have a Pfister Stage 3 on my 993, which is just, it just sounds so good. And you know, that's going to be a high benchmark to try to meet with a car like this, a turbo car. But I think the Miltek exhaust does a nice job. I mean, it sounds pretty good. So look, as I said on the very front end of this video, I am an air-cooled guy through and through. I love the history, the soul, the character, the presence of those cars. And generally speaking, I prefer driving my air-cooled cars, really my 993 the most. So these cars are going for anywhere from, call it like $60,000 to $85,000, depending on like mileage, condition, rarity, whether or not it's tip or 6-speed. So the values are a little bit all over the board. The real question for me is this worth owning at that price point? And I would say absolutely. I think this car, if you were to go out and spend $65,000 to $80,000 on one of these, I don't think you would be disappointed at all. I don't know if I feel the same way about it that I do about air-cooled cars. So I'm kind of waffling on whether or not this is a long-term keeper. But, you know, I feel like too that this would be one of those cars where if I sold it, I think I would really, really regret it. So bottom line is, I'm gonna keep this car for a while. I'm gonna do some more content, more videos on it, so, you know, stick around for that. But I must share with you that I prefer air-cooled Porsches. So that's it. If you have any questions or if you'd like to see, you know, a deeper review, or, you know, if you want me to zero in on certain things about this car, just tell me in the comments. Happy to do more for you. With all that being said, I really appreciate you checking out this video, and I hope to see you in the future.